Okay, so welcome to everyone to this work-life lunch and learn on the topic of flexible work arrangements. And hopefully everyone, can you guys in the audience hear me just fine? Okay, good. So I'm Azetta Beatty. I'm the HR manager for the Office of Work Life. And we are very pleased to have some of our HR colleagues here today to talk to you guys about the services that we provide, as well as just the details of what you would need to know if you were considering flexible work arrangements. Have any of you guys already taken advantage of flexible work arrangements in the audience? Yes? Not? Okay, well, good. So we have quite a few people that are just considering it. So this is the perfect session for you because in this session, we will be given an overview of what flexible work arrangements are. How do you go about scheduling them? What are the pros and cons? You know, a little bit of things to think about, make sure there aren't any barriers to you participating. And then just the logistics in terms of the policy procedure side of it. All right, so we always start our presentations by giving a quick summary overview of the services offered by the Office of Work Life. We are a part of the Human Resources Division here at the University of Kentucky. And one way to think about our services is basically we are here to offer resources, strategies, services to assist you as you are balancing your work and life responsibilities. Now, of course, we use the word balance loosely. We really lean more towards managing your work and life responsibilities because we know that balance means different things to different people and it looks different in different seasons of your life. So for example, if you have a child in soccer, it's like, oh my goodness. If you have a child in t-ball, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, so depending on what's going on in your life, there's never going to be an equal balance of everything. But in terms of just managing things and effectively running your life, we basically try to provide some resources and services to assist you with that. We also assist with the employee engagement efforts that the university undertakes. So basically, this is just UK's effort to check on employees and make sure that if there's ways we can assist you with your work-life balance and a lot of other areas as well, that we want to do what we can to assist you. And we want to hear from you. So there's a survey that we administer every couple of years to collect information from the employees, that's faculty and staff, to help us to see how to kind of check your pulse a little bit, to check and see how things are going. And then we take those results and then we share it with the departments to let them know here's how your particular employees in your area answered these questions in these different categories, and then talk to them about action planning. So things that they can do to make sure that they continue to do the things that are working and then set some strategies for things that may not be working quite as well. When it comes to our services, I just want to take a few minutes to give a summary of the services that we offer in the Office of Work Life. We do offer counseling services under our program Work Plus Life Connections. And in that counseling service, you can get 5 free visits per fiscal year for yourself, the individual, or for your family. We do not do couples counseling at this time. Also, with that 5 free visits, the nice thing about that, when I say free, like there's no copay free. So that's the nice thing about it. And also the fact that you can extend it to your immediate family is nice as well. So if you don't need the 5 sessions, maybe your child needs it, maybe your partner needs it, they can take advantage of that opportunity. In addition to the counseling services, our therapists also do some outreach efforts. We have a program service called WOW, which is Work Life on Wheels, where we go out to different areas on campus and pretty much try to introduce people to here's what we do, you know, here's how we can serve you. Here's how we can assist you as you are kind of trying to effectively manage this work and life thing. And they also do group presentations. Another area of service that we offer in the Office of Work Life would be our childcare and parenting related resources. If you go to our website, you will see quite a few links and different resources to assist you as far as childcare and parenting goes. One would be the resource that allows you to look for childcare facilities. There's information on how do you evaluate a childcare facility, just like literally what questions should you ask, what should you look for if you go in there and talk to someone. And there's lots of other resources similar to that. We also have a resource called Little Cat's Guide, which is really great for expectant parents, and that could be the mom or the dad, or even if you're adopting or what have you. That is basically a 9-page document where we have collected a lot of things related to like an expectant parent, such as information related to family medical leave, information related to lactation support, information related to, you know, how do you have conversations with your supervisor transitioning away and transitioning back, those kinds of resources in one guide. And you can get that on our website. We also have lactation spaces that we kind of oversee or collaborate with different partners on campus. We have quite a few lactation dedicated spaces on our campus. So we like to make sure parents know about that, because we know everyone is not in a private office where if they were a nursing mom where they can take advantage of that. So there are some lactation spaces, and you can find that information on our website. So if you were to go to our website, you can see the list of lactation spaces on our campus, as well as there's a link on the UK interactive map. If you go, there's a little icon, you click, and then all the little spaces will pop up. And so that's neat, because even if you normally are working in a space that you think, oh yeah, I can just use my office, maybe for the day you're going to be cross campus at a training or something like that, and you think, oh my goodness, what do I do now? So it's nice sometimes just to know that that's available. And then we have Big Blue Family Care, which is a child care referral service, which is ideal if you are looking for supplemental care, not full-time care. So this does not replace like full-time child care. So we work with UK students, we recruit them, we hire them, we do a background check on them, and we do the initial kind of interview just to check the student and see what their motivations are for participating. And then from there, the parents can go on our website and submit a form indicating what type of care you need. So for example, if you need after school care or occasional date nights, weekends, whatever care you need, you can submit that, and you can submit forms as many times as you need care. So maybe you need care next Thursday or in a month or what have you. Some of you may be thinking about summer care at this time. We don't have as many students that participate in summer care to be a nanny, but we do have some. So if that's an interest of yours, I definitely highly recommend you submit a form now, because I already have like 15, believe it or not. So that's one thing. And then elder care resources and consultations. The great thing about this service, we do have a consultant that works with you one-on-one regarding your elder care needs. And elder care needs could be one of those things that, you know, today you're fine. You have family members that are independent and they're doing their thing and they don't need any help and they don't want any help. But you might want to start learning some things about when that time comes. And so you can sign up to be a part of our listserv, and then that way you can receive the monthly newsletters. You'll receive information about Lunch and Learns, the Senior Caregiving Conference that's offered every fall, and any other type of resource that we have. We have a virtual dementia tour that we do 1 to 2 times a year. And that's a very neat experience if you've never participated in that. If you have a family member that is maybe facing some type of dementia, you know, dementia is an umbrella term, but that is an experience that you literally go through. And it's about a 30-minute to an hour experience, and it helps you to understand where they're coming from and what they're experiencing. And so that's the elder care. The neatest thing that I love to mention about elder care is that your family member does not need to be in Lexington. You may have a family member in Bowling Green, in Northern Kentucky, or in Chicago, or in Alabama someplace. It could be anywhere. But because you are a University of Kentucky employee, you can participate and you can get assistance. So that's good to note. And so today, of course, our big topic we're talking about is flexible work arrangements. So when it comes to flexible work arrangements, I'll talk a little bit more in the next slides. So why flexible work arrangements? You might be asking, you guys aren't asking yourself if you're here. But as far as flexible work arrangements go, we know that we talk about balancing our lives and all the responsibilities. Sometimes that can just be one tool or one thing that we can offer you that assists you in and making sure that everything is harmonizing for you in your personal life. So when you're thinking about that flexible work arrangement, it could assist you in as you are managing your family, your career, your health, your friends, and so forth. Also, the question you might ask, what does flex options have to do with managing my life? So I put these words up here: management, harmony, balance, and effectiveness, because honestly, some people will lean towards one word more than the other. Some people say harmony and think like, you know, everything is not balanced out, but I'm okay, I'm managing it, it's working for me. And that's pretty much kind of where you want to be. You want to make sure it doesn't have to be all balanced, but make sure you are able to kind of flex and move according to what you need to do at that time in your life. So there are some things that supervisors and employees need to consider if they're thinking about flexible work options. So one, you want to think about what's your job function. Like when you're thinking flexing, what do you do? Is that something that can be done in a flexible way? You You want to think about the team impact. If you're flexing hours, and we'll talk more about the options for flexing, how does that impact your team, your immediate team, your indirect team, your department, your division, and so forth? Are there some barriers that you need to be considering prior to asking for flex options? Because if there are barriers, you want to think about what they are, honestly, and then think, what can I do to make sure that's not a barrier? Or what plan can I put in place to make sure that to lessen the blow, or can I do some things in advance? Can I set certain things up to make it smooth for my team and for my workflow and for my department? And your performance, of course, are you showing up on time? Are you doing the work you're supposed to do? Just think about what you're contributing to your job, just that. Productivity, your time and project management. So you got to think about, if I'm flexing my time, is the work still going to get done? And yes, of course, we know the work still has to get done. So you have to think about, how is the work going to get done? Again, back to communicating with your team members. If there's something you can switch off with someone, or whatever plan you put in place with your manager, just thinking about that, thinking that through. And then, of course, the timing that you're trying to flex. If you're trying to have a year-round flex schedule, just thinking about, I'll talk more about that. So communicating with your team and supervisors, we've been talking about that. Tracking your projects. When you're flexing, sometimes you have to be that much more diligent about tracking your progress on the projects and things that you're working on, and communicating that to people that you work with. And then, who approves these requests? The requests are approved by the supervisor or your manager. They are not approved by the Office of Work Life, so we want to make sure you are super duper clear on that. We do assist in the process. We collect the information, so the forms that you will complete come to our office, and we'll talk more about that later as well. But just note that the request is approved or denied by your supervisor. So it's a really good idea that you guys are here today, and the Zoom participants are online, hearing some of the tips of things to consider before you even approach a supervisor. All right, and then determining eligibility, we'll talk about that. If you are telework, for example, as your flex option of choice, you want to make sure you're using UK equipment. And there's some confidentiality things there. If the equipment breaks down, you don't want to be using your house laptop or shared computer with family, that people can have access to confidential information. That's UK information. Or if, let's just say, your home computer gets a virus and all your work stuff is on there. So there's things you want to think about like that. Trial period. Yes, you can participate in a trial period. And sometimes that makes some managers and supervisors feel a little comfortable about it, as opposed to like, yes, I'll approve you for a year to do this. They may just be comfortable just trying it out for a few months and see how it goes. The nice thing about the trial period is giving you both an opportunity to see what's working, what's not working, and then kind of discuss and make sure you're clear on expectations. All right, do you have to provide a reason? Not necessarily. So you may simply want to flex because you want to flex because it's summer and you're slow in your department. It doesn't have to be that there's a big reason for it. You may just think, gosh, this will contribute to my less stress, balance, and workload. And my department can afford for me to not be there one day a week, something like that. So that is something to think about as well. And of course, if you are making a flex leave change that requires any changing of your position or your hours or your pay, you want to definitely make sure, of course, that is cleared with your business officer as well, the person that will be making changes to your SAP and My UK status. So flex work options. We have full-time options, and then we have part-time reduced seasonal options. When it comes to full-time options, there's one flex time, which is just flexing your time. That's where you work your same number of hours per week that you normally would, or per 2 weeks that you normally would, but you are just changing maybe your shift around a bit. So for example, if you normally work like an 8 to 5, maybe you're working, a 7 to 4 or something like that. Or if you're getting off working a half day on Wednesday, again, this could be part of, you need to be off half day Wednesday because you have a life, something you're dealing with. And you're still getting your hours in, but you yourself have to look with your supervisor at, where do I pack those other 4 hours? Maybe you just work an extra hour the other days of the week. So that's just flexing your time, moving things around, possibly coming earlier, leaving later, those kinds of things. Telework is, of course, is remote working. It's another way to think about telework, is where you're working from a different location. So that telework, you got to keep in mind all the UK rules and expectations still apply. You're just not in your office. So there's we're going to have some points about that later as well. And then a compressed week, you might consider working 4 10s as an example, 4 days a week for 10 hours versus that 8 hours a day. And that could just be one way that you compress. And again, it could be because you want to be off or need to be off for family or personal reasons a particular day. When you think about the part-time options, there's reduced seasonal hours, which we'll talk about. Part-time, phased return from leave, if you're out from leave and you don't come back immediately all the way full-time, but you come back, 3 days, 4 days a week, something like that. And then there's the phased retirement option. So let's talk a little bit more about reduced seasonal hours. And I'm just going to spend a little extra time on this because we are getting ready to enter the season of summer reduced hours. And that season goes from May the 5th through August the 17th. And that is a very popular option on our campus. And so I want to just spend a little extra time talking about that and make sure you're very clear on what that means. You can also find information on the WorkLife website about this, and it goes into great details. If you don't get it all today, you can see me after the presentation or you can check out our website. But there are two options for reduced seasonal hours. One is the unpaid 1 full week off, so like Monday through Friday off, unpaid. And of course, that'll be something you yourself have thought about. What's the financial impact, and is that something I want to do? The other option is just to reduce your work hours, and we prefer not less than 0.75 hours of your time. And then the other, as far as criteria goes, you want to be a regular employee. You want to also be a full-time employee. Could be hourly or exempt. So that's like salary or hourly. And then successfully have already completed your new hire period, like your new hire orientation period, which is typically the 90 days. So beyond the 90 days, that's when you want to start talking about reducing seasonal hours. Another thing to think about with reduced seasonal hours is it can potentially be a wonderful win-win for everyone. So for example, if your department is kind of slower right at that time and they don't really need everybody there, that could be. And then also because if you choose to do the reduced hours, or if you are taking a full week off, that saves funds for the department, to be honest. And then also it gives you an opportunity to manage your life, whatever is happening with you. So it could be a win-win. Also note with that one, because you go online and complete the form that you complete online, a copy goes to the Office of Work-Life email, a copy goes to your supervisor that you will list in the form as the person to receive it. So you want to make sure you correctly enter that person's email address, because we have gotten people sometimes call and say, my supervisor said I never got the form. And then we go and look and we say, what's their email address? So make sure you're clear, because sometimes you might think it's one thing and it's something else. And that's why they never got it. But we can forward it to them if that happens. But just, you want to make sure everything you enter is correct. And so that supervisor is responsible for reviewing the request, approving or denying it, and then sending an email to the Office of Work-Life saying this is approved or this is denied, or this person's going to resubmit it with some changes or something like that. We just wanted them to let us know. Otherwise, we'll be reaching out to them asking, did you approve or deny this? And sometimes that's why you want to talk to your supervisors before you submit the form. It's okay to go and look at it and see what it asks. You can even fill something out and print it off and don't submit it, just so that you can have a conversation with your supervisor about it before you submit it. That way there's no surprises, you've already agreed upon everything, and it's more so just formality. The other biggest thing with that, also for the supervisor, if they need to forward it on to the business officer or whoever makes the changes with positions and that type of thing. Super duper important, because sometimes they may say approve to us and stop there. And the email information that they receive tells them specifically what to do. It tells them to forward to their business officer. And there's information on our website for the business officer if they are not sure about exactly what to do. So they can go there. Ford, did you have a company on there? Oh, okay. And so also you can take more than 1 week for unpaid. Again, that's between you and your department and your finances. So if you looked at that and you say, hey, I want to take 2 or 3 weeks, and there's a lot of people that actually do that. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that'll take a whole month off, or they may take one week a month, 1 week in May, 1 week in June, 1 week in July. And that's they decided, the department said that's good, and it works for them. There's this one statement here, just says that you will not accrue vacation or leave time during an unpaid week. So that's something to think about, maybe. And I'll let Gail talk more about that, because if you work like 1 week within that month pay period, then you can still accrue some time and pay for it. So Gail will talk a little bit more about that later. Telework agreement. So telework, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but this slide just tells us that when you're filling out that agreement online, there's a lot of things that conversation pieces that you can have. There's a piece on duration, like how long are you doing it? There's a piece that talks about pay and attendance, leave, liabilities, reimbursements, workers' comp, work assignments, employee eval, how you're going to evaluate the person. And so there's a lot of information on there on the telework agreement. So it's very important that you and your supervisor talk through the agreement and make sure everyone's on the same page. There's some quick tips for working from home. I'll just mention a couple of these. First and foremost, try to stick to the same routine. Try to make sure this is worked into your family's rhythm, because sometimes when you're at home, people may not realize you're working. Or they may, although you may say, I'm working from home, they may still be like, oh, but you're here, you can do all these different things. You're like, no, I'm working. So you may want to make sure you've already kind of worked that into your family's rhythm, and people know, and you have a space that you're using, and you kind of pull back and you're actually able to work. And then also, and I say if somebody's there, but you're also not using this as a child care replacement or elder care replacement. You're working from home, you're working from home. So keep that in mind. Don't expect to do it all just because you're at home and now nobody's calling me, nobody's knocking on my door, my phone's not ringing, so I'm going to have a plan, obviously, do as much as you can, but don't pick yourself up if you have this super long list and you get through half of it. So basically, one of the biggest things to keep in mind with working from home is making sure you establish expectations with your supervisor, making sure you have a plan, project plan, things like that, and you stick to it, basically. And then evaluate and adjust as needed. So if you discover this working from home is not working for me, then you can cancel the agreement. And then there's always benefits for flexible work arrangements. Oftentimes we find job satisfaction is higher, individual morale is higher, work-life fit. Sometimes people feel like they're not just a number, like a person is working with them, their supervisor is, to help them with their work flexibility needs that they may have. And oftentimes that's sometimes temporary. So with the flex leave arrangement with the forms, although you may have a regular every Tuesday work from home, let's just say you're doing remote working, some people may have an occasional work from home set up. So it's just, you have a specific particular project you're working on and you think, gosh, if I can just work from home Wednesday and Thursday of next week, I can get this project done. So that's what we would consider like an occasional as needed type of an agreement. All right, now we're going to hear from Chris Dudley talking about leave tips.
I am Chris Dudley, I'm the HR manager for leave administration. My office manages primarily workers' comp, long-term disability, and family medical leave programs per se. What I'm going to talk about for this couple of minutes is really those that are working from home and how that plays into workers' compensation. As you will see on the slides, one of the things we talk about is a quote from the OSHA regulations. This is called the general duty clause. It does say that an employer is required to give an employee a workspace that is free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. So as you're working from home, there are several things that one should be thinking about As I was talking about, you always want to make sure that you have defined job responsibilities and defined work time. So if you're working from home and somebody has heard you said you had it at 9 o'clock at night, most positions you're not working at 9 o'clock at night. So you have to understand that. Same thing for taking lunch breaks and just regular breaks. Make sure you have those kind of defined in your agreement with your supervisor, so everybody knows that if something ever happens, what you were doing, why you were doing it, and was this actual item for time limit. Also, from working at home, you want to make sure you get all kinds of safety precautions. If you're working at your kitchen table, is there power cords in the way? Is there a surge protector? Do you have things like smoke detectors in your house? A first aid kit? You should also have home insurance in case something ever happens to your home or renters insurance. And also make sure that we have emergency contact information. So if you're home by yourself and your supervisor can't get hold of you, it's not during lunch or break period, I want to make sure that when things happen to you and you need to contact 911, contact the spouse, the child, something like that to see what's going on with you. Some people find it's a good idea to take a picture of the workspace. That way we can kind of see what it looks like after we're auditing it. It's always nice to kind of show that, hey, this is where I'm working from, there's no cords, or what the situation may be from that. And lastly, just to make sure that, again, you have everything written down and planned and agreed upon for supervisors. Everybody's talked about it, you're agreeable to it, you know what it means, and there are no surprises. It's really, if we have a surprise issue, that's the problems we have when we knew about a certain situation.
Katie, can you make sure you speak right into that lapel mic? Because some reason it's
This
the lapel.
Okay. I'm Katie Roberts. I am the compensation manager for the university, and we cover anything that has to do with wage and hours. So we are looking at hours worked. We also look at job descriptions, pay scales, grades. So a couple of things that we wanted to discuss with in this regard is supervision oversight. So we're looking at making sure that the supervisor of that area where there are either flexible schedules or different work arrangements, that the department, the people need to be, there can be a rotating person in the office if that's something that the university or the department is able to allow. Otherwise, making sure that people can work around the schedule. And make sure that the supervisor understands the scheduling needs of the unit. The other thing is the volumes of understanding when you may have peaks and lows of the volumes within the department. So that could be also an impact on looking at the schedules. And then also exempt and non-exempt hourly versus salary. There could just be some things that we're under wage and hour department we're looking at that we're paying people for overtime if they work over 40 hours. And then if we change the FT, making sure that we're looking at what that schedule really looks like. And also making sure to go off what Chris said too, breaks and lunches. Even though you may be working from home, you still need to be taking breaks and lunches. The other thing is potential change in pay. So if you are changing your schedule, reducing it in any way, pay is going to be changing unless obviously you take a week off of that pay, you're not going to have pay for a week. Or if you're reducing your FT from a 1.0 to a 0.75, regardless of your hourly or salary, that will change your pay. The other thing we'll look at making sure that we are still in compliance with the FLSA guidelines. So if you're exempt, making sure that we're still, if you reduce your FT, making sure that we are still in the new standards of the FLSA. The other thing is unemployment. If you do go with the flexible work arrangement or taking that week off of no pay, it is not unemployment. You will not be able to apply for unemployment in that week.
Hello, I'm Gail Carville with I'm an HR manager in benefits.
Thank you.
off the piece of the microphone for those that can't see. The key takeaway that I would like to express is our contact information. And it's on the slide, you can see the benefits email or our customer service phone number. If you plan on reducing your hours, especially if it's below 0.75, where you would no longer be eligible for the healthcare credit, or taking a period of time unpaid, you would probably want to give us a call. We just want to make sure that you have no lapse in your benefits. And a little, I guess, point I'd like to make as well is that if you plan on taking a period of unpaid leave, and let's say I want to take 7 weeks this summer, and you'll want to work at least one day in each of the months. So you'll want to plan, if you can, so that you're working, let's say I work June 1st and 2nd, and then I want to make sure I come back at the end of that last week of July to ensure I get the credit for that period. If I took a period of time off, let's say from June 20th to August 10th, I'm not going to receive the July credit for my health insurance. So those are just things to keep in mind, and if you call us, we can just quickly look at your benefits, look at the time you have that you're planning on taking off, and work with you. We will catch up your premiums when you return, and that's probably the best way of handling this. Or we can take a premium ahead of schedule as well, to ensure that your medical, dental, your flexible spending accounts, your vision insurance, those are all pre-tax benefits. So you're not paying state, federal, or social security taxes. So anyhow, so that's why it's better to have it pull out of your paycheck than writing us a check. Although we can handle it that way, it's just not the way we would recommend. I'm going to turn it over to Ward to talk to you about the vacation time and what hours you have to work during the month.
Thank you. Again, my name is Ward Sutton. I'm the HR business officer. So I actually am a person who meets with a couple of my HR colleagues about this time of the year, and there are a couple of people who do take advantage of this. So I've got that kind of expertise on. Okay, the number one tip I have for everybody is to please sit down with your business officer and your supervisor. That helps too. But sit down with them and go over. This is what we're thinking. We're thinking, I might reduce my schedule down to 0.75, or you know what? I do want to take an unpaid week off. There are so many variables with whether you're exempt or not exempt, or will it affect my vacation accrual? Those are things that again, when the rubber meets the road, I like to say, I guess, we can sit down and look at the payroll schedule that's on the UK payroll Office of the Treasury website. Say, okay, this is the payroll period that you're looking to do this change, lowering your FTE, going unpaid, and then you're going to come back at this time, and we can really honestly look at obviously a real world scenario and say these are the effects that are going to happen and such. So obviously, again, as Gail said, if you don't work enough, if you don't have enough paid time during your particular payroll schedule, whether it be exempt or not exempt, if you have less than half paid, the system should not generate your vacation accrual that you normally work and are used to getting because you're paid all the time. At the same time, if you reduce your FTE, you might have a lower accrual than you're used to getting. But I think obviously if everybody knows what's going to happen in advance, nobody's shocked or over something bad happened. I didn't know that was going to happen, or I wish I'd known that was going to happen. You just avoid a lot of that kind of thing. So, but knowing the dates in advance, knowing the date range, knowing what your goals are. I'd like to be unpaid. I'd like to reduce my FTE. Being able to sit down with your supervisor first, and then sit down with the business officer next. But truly, it should. So far, not going for my kids, it's been very successful for HR. Just doing it in advance and meeting with everybody. And then the last bullet there is really important. Obviously, a lot of people. There are two major holidays during this time frame, usually Memorial Day and 4th of July. And a reminder that you have to be in a paid status the day before the scheduled holiday and the scheduled day after the holiday. So realizing that, somebody might want to take off that first week in July and be off without pay. That sounds like a great deal, but you just knocked yourself out of being eligible for the 4th of July holiday pay. So again, these are things that, as a business officer, it's my job to help, take care of you and help you to see that. So, is that right? Is that
Yes.
anything?
Do you have any comments for this one?
No, I think that's all right. Because that's more the James Patterson
Yeah.
team and everything.
That's it, Tim. That's it. So now we're just going to transition to Q&A. Okay, so do you guys have any questions for our panelists in the room? And then we have Zoom we'll be monitoring as well. So if you're on Zoom, feel free to go ahead and submit your questions.
I have a question about flex time. So if you're wanting to just adjust your hours, so for example, do 4:10 instead of 5:08, or you want to do, like you said, and come in 7 and leave at 4, are you eligible for that if you're a salaried employee as well? Does it work the same way since it's at least 40 hours for those, or is that only when you're actually inputting those hours?
That works for everyone.
Okay, that's what it seemed like, right? I just want to make sure.
Right.
One thing to be, when you take, sorry. The question is if you can be exempt from flexible time. So one of the things to just be cautious on, if you do a
Yes.
4:10 schedule,
I'll send
and a holiday falls on one of those days, just to make sure, because you're still only going to take 3 hours. Or you'll have to take 10 hours of vacation instead of what you would normally work, or what you would normally take 8 hours. So that's the only thing to just be cautious on when you do 4:10, that you're still only going to get 8 hours if you're 40 hours.
Are there other questions from the audience? We don't have any on Zoom currently.
Well, I have a question about like telework. And so I think in there it said that you needed to like a material, like a computer or something, right? Is that okay? How would that fit in with like, I guess those VP into your compute, like your own computer in your office desk? That kind of, okay.
If you want to repeat that question.
So for Zoom participants, so the question is, I guess I'm gonna try to make sure I summarize what you said. So her question was related to VPN using that option from home. Like, you know how you have that, it'll pop up on your UK equipment and say VPN, you just, yes, you accept it. Was that pretty much your point? Yes, okay. And the VPN basically says that you're routing through UK. So UK is checking, making sure there aren't any bugs or crazy stuff coming through. So even when you're doing VPN from home, you're saying I'm routing through UK and bouncing back to me. That's my understanding of VPN. You got it?
So one thing I've learned, if you're working UK healthcare, there's actually a whole process to go to do that. You just can't VPN straight in. My office have to go through UK firewall, part of HR, and we can't VPN from my home straight into the office.
Good to know. Yeah. Any of you guys work in UK healthcare? Any healthcare in the room? Okay.
You don't have any questions?
I do have a question really quickly. So in our department, we're kind of fighting right now that leadership is trying to explain that it's got to be fair and equitable for everyone. Well, there's 60 people in our building and not everyone is currently asking for it. And they're kind of going off the light that if you're asking, we're denying it because we can't offer it to everyone. So are there any tips or suggestions that you would give us that if we're fighting our leadership on it and they're doing it as a, well, that it's not equitable for everyone, that's not really great for the individuals in our building that are requesting it. So is there any tips or guidance that you could give us for navigating those conversations?
So I can tell you, when I talk to the employee relations, they do talk a lot about fairness, and that is something they have to consider sometimes. Your individual are you saying your supervisor is saying no because other people don't want to or can't, or make sure I understand your question?
They're saying basically, like, even though you're asking for it, if we can't give it to everyone, even if they're asking for it or not asking for it, they're denying it.
Let me talk offline with you about
Yeah,
that one. So her question is basically for the Zoom participants on if one person in the office asks for, are you saying a particular type of flex?
Yeah.
Which type of flex?
Last time was telecommuting.
Okay, so telework options. If one person's asking, but everyone will have to be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's usually the case. Everyone has to be able to, like it's an option for everyone.
Everyone in the office wants it, but.
Currently, so she's saying everyone in the office wants it, but is it, so there's so many things to think about with this one. So when I'm having conversations with supervisors or individuals about this, we start going back to that list of things to consider for supervisors and employees. So you're thinking about the impact on the team, impact on the workflow, you think about the time of year, there's so many things to think about. And we kind of talk through that. So without knowing your full situation, I'd love to talk to you later about that though. Yes.
I was hoping you could clarify how health, dental, and vision benefits are affected if someone, say, takes 2 weeks off and they're an hourly employee. My understanding was it's not that they can't go to the doctor and be covered. It's just that they'll have to catch up on their expenses later. Is that right?
That's exactly right. The question was, how is dental and vision and other insurances impacted when somebody's off? You are still covered and you're still eligible for the coverage. It's just those premiums, if you have a paycheck or two, where you don't have premiums deducted, you would have to catch those premiums up. Right, okay, and the other thing I was going to add, and it's a little bit different, but years ago I was going to tell you about my own flex work schedule. I reduced down to 50%, and of course this worked well with the department. And during the school year, I would work from 8 to 2, taking an hour lunch. So I worked, I think I worked Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, so 20 hours. And then in the summers, I worked 2 10-hour days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it helped reduce my dependent care costs at the time in the summers. So I just wanted to, it can work. It worked out very, very well. And I just wanted to share that with y'all.
So to go off of Gail's too, so we also, in my department, I allow my people to telework. And so we do 1 day a week at least. But to your point, I offer it to, I have different levels of employees, but it's one level of employees, so they're different by different classifications. Their jobs are completely different, but I do allow it, but I make sure that they all have the option, but only 3 of them take advantage of it. So, I mean, they all were given the option, and we had a big schedule to put out of who would do what. There was some overlap that our department, we could still meet the needs of the university by still allowing if we had, because we still had somebody in the office. We don't get walk-ins very often because our office is a little locked down, not completely locked down, but it is not as open as where other areas may be where you're constant having people walking in and out, and that can also impact whether you can telework or not.
For example. Yep. All right, so also, thinking about your question, I would say for us, it still always will come down to the supervisor or the manager approving or denying it. So once we talk a little bit later and I get a little bit more information, sometimes it's maybe just a conversation to be had with the supervisor and just find out their perspective and what's happening. But in the end, it will be your supervisor's call. So I do have a question online. Hold on one quick second. I have a question online This person said, let me read it through. Oh, it looks like this question is asking if this person is working from home outside of work hours. So I think, Chris, you already addressed that. When you're working from home, you want to make sure you have like a work schedule. So you're working, if it's normally 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, then you're working 8 to 5, not like 7 o'clock at night or, so, and then that also impacts like the workers' comp, right, Chris? So if you're supposed to be working 8 to 5 and you get hurt at 7 at night and saying you are trying to file a workers' comp claim, it's like you weren't working at that time. So that's something to think about. Let me make sure there's another question online as well. Let me get to on Zoom. What was your question in the back, Dana?
I just have a question about, it's not on any of the list, but I'm just curious if UK has any kind of job sharing plan that's also considered sort of flex arrangements.
Kate may be able to speak to that. In healthcare, there's job sharing. Used to be. Not anymore. Oh, okay. Gail has a comment on the job sharing question.
I know we had, a couple people who were job sharing, I put my fingers up in quotes, they were each working 50% FTE. And within their departments, they worked it out, so they were doing the same job, and so that worked for them. I only can think of one scenario like that. So I think it's hard because you have to find two people that are willing to not receive the retirement match, the long-term disability. So when you drop to 50% and you go below that 75%, you lose a lot of your benefits. You do still accrue the vacation and sick time, it's that 50% level, but
I was wondering if you could maybe give us some examples of how you guys can help employees don't